Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go through some basic neurology so you understand how your brain and body connection actually works. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button and go somewhere else. Find something you do like. I hope you have an awesome day. So today I wanted to go through some basic foundational neurology to give you guys some context for the last couple of videos, all the videos that are to come, and really just give you a baseline foundation on this brain-body connection and how this whole system kind of works. It'll give you guys a good idea of why I think what I think when it comes to pain, when it comes to training, when it comes to strength, all these things. And even things as more obscure like emotional outputs or mental health, giving you guys some context to place the framework of neurology and how your brain works to be able to actually fit these concepts in and understand how you can effectively change them. Because that's the end goal from all of this is if I have all this theory and we can't actually do something practical with it and make an actual change, I don't really care. And probably you don't either. So I really want to go over this in the hopes that it can help you understand how to think better about how your entire body and your brain work, and then help you facilitate change with that understanding. Before I get into this, I do want to say a quick thank you to Dr. Cobb and Zeal Performance. He's the gentleman that taught me most of what I know when it comes to a lot of this neurology. They specialize in teaching health and fitness professionals about neurology and how they can use it to impact their practice. So I've taken a lot of this concept from him and what he's taught. And so credit where credit's due. I always want to direct that back to those people that have given me the knowledge and the insight into what I'm doing here. So I'll start off here by saying that the brain's number one job, more than anything else, is survival. The brain does not care if you make it to next week. It doesn't care about next month. It doesn't care about next year. If you need any clear examples of that, ask anyone that's tried to lose weight, especially if they've been told by their doctor they need to lose weight. Their brain doesn't really care about the future necessarily. It just cares that they survive today or right now at this exact moment. And that's why behavior change ends up being so hard for people, because a lot of the things that are behavior change are more long-term goals. They're more short-term sacrifice for a long-term solution to something. And your brain really just cares about the short-term, that I can survive. So what I always say in the training environment is that your brain doesn't care that your brain doesn't care if you win the gold medal at the Olympics. It cares that you survive the attempt. It's going to do everything it can to make sure you survive the attempt. So the reason it's so important to understand that safety is your brain's primary concern is you have to understand your brain's using prediction all of the time to keep you safe. So pattern recognition is the main way that we're going throughout the world and being able to understand whether or not we're in a tough situation or we're going to be okay, right? So if I drive my normal route to work all the time and I kind of know the way traffic flows and all of a sudden it's all backed up on the street, I know something's wrong because it's not the normal pattern, right? There might be an accident up there, there might be a detour I have to take, whatever. So we're using that pattern recognition to go, hey, something's off here, I need to make a change, right? And so that's what your brain's doing with movement all the time. It's what you're doing with social interactions all the time. Like, hey, something's off with this person. Or, hey, something's off with my body right now. I don't quite feel right. So that predictive capability is super, super important. So when we talk about inputs, interpretation, decision, and outputs, and we kind of get into this next part, understand that changing the inputs and increasing my ability to predict is going to be vital in changing whatever output I have. That being said, when we look at how your system works and how your brain works, we want to look at three basic things, okay? So your brain takes an input, it has to make an interpretation about that input and decide what to do with it, and then it gives you an output. Now, most of the time this is happening behind the scenes. These are things that you're not actually conscious of. These are things you're not actually thinking about, right? So if it's a hot day like it is today in Arizona and I'm starting to sweat a little bit, I'm not thinking, hey man, I should produce some sweat so I can cool off. My brain's just doing that stuff automatically. So it's got some other processing that's like what we call subcortical or subconscious. It's just happening. It's taking in this information about how hot it is, what my internal temperature is, and making a decision to go, hey, we should produce some sweat so that this guy can cool off and we don't overheat, we can maintain homeostasis, and essentially we don't die. So that's the goal of everything for your brain at the end of it all. That being said, those 3 steps are really what are critical for you to be able to understand how anything in your life really works with your brain. Most people are focused on outputs. And you can see there's a couple different types of outputs that we can think about, but we could go, hey, if I'm looking at outputs that I do like, maybe they're these things. Maybe it's me moving faster, maybe it's me being stronger, maybe it's me having higher quality of movement or moving pain-free or having less stress or having peace in my life or being happy. Maybe those are all good outputs that I like. Maybe we have not so good outputs or negative outputs that I don't want, like stress and anxiety, like poor movement, like pain, like tension, things like that. So those are all outputs. Thoughts are motor outputs, emotions are motor outputs, movements are motor outputs. All of those things are motor outputs. My sweat that I was talking about, that's a motor output, right? There's motor activity that makes that happen. It's an output. But what are the other things that are a part of this loop that we can actually change? Because maybe I can't change my output. Maybe I'm struggling, feeling really frustrated, and I have an emotional output. Or maybe I'm struggling with a squat, and no matter how many times I do a freaking squat, I can't figure out how to do it better. That is what I'm talking about, where I go, hey, why don't we stop looking at the output for a second? Let's go back and take a look at how our brain's interpreting the input that's coming in and integrating that input. And maybe we should go back and actually change the inputs coming in. So that's where we look at things like, hey, our eyes, our vestibular system, our different movement receptors that are in our joints, things like that. And actually we can go back and change these outputs by changing the inputs. So there's a whole bunch of different inputs you can look at to change your outputs. And that's what I really want you guys to actually get from me, at least right now in this moment, is to go, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It shouldn't be life-changing to be able to think about if I change one input, I can change an entire output. If I change one visual stimulus for my brain, I can change my back pain completely. If I change one vestibular stimulus, I can change my strength output completely. I can lift 20 more pounds on this lift, or grip strength can go up by 20, 30 pounds as well. Like it shouldn't be that obscure and crazy to think about. So I really want to drive home the thought about inputs and being able to change different inputs, because what I really want for you guys is you guys to be able to have some control in your life for some of these outputs that you're getting. Some of these outputs that you get, pain's a really good example, where you just go, gosh darn it, like I don't know how to change this. This is super frustrating. I fixated on this thing and I don't know how to change it. Well, cool. Like you're focusing on the output, and that's totally normal. And what we can do now, if I give you a couple ideas, is you can go back and change a couple inputs. And you can see how those inputs affect that output. And if you start to find things that affect that negative output that you don't want anymore, you can start to hammer at those inputs and actually train them. You can really get good at them and change that state for your brain to make it feel safer, so that we can actually change the output. So everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope it was helpful for you. If you are curious about my online program and what I do, feel free to hit the link in the description. You can do a free strategy call with me and learn a little bit more about that. If you haven't liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content, and comment below with anything that you'd like to see. And I'll see you on the next one.